Ever imagine living in a world where, uh, you know, your only news comes from like
Hmm.
tightly controlled state media,
Oh, absolutely.
and the internet is a luxury few can access.
Yeah.
That was the reality for so many in the Arab world just before 2011.
Right.
But then this incredible thing happened.
Yeah.
A Tunisian street vendor set himself on fire in protest.
Wow.
And this desperate act, this one man,
Yeah.
ignited this wildfire of revolution that swept across the entire region.
That's right.
We know it as the Arab Spring.
The Arab Spring.
And today we're diving deep into those heady days. We're
Yeah.
exploring the roots of revolution through the eyes of the people who lived it
Absolutely. Those are the best sources.
in Tunisia, Egypt, and Syria. So to really understand the power of these uprisings,
Yes.
we need to hear those human stories, the personal experiences of those who are on the front lines.
Yeah. That's what brings it to life.
We're going to weave those stories together with the historical context
Yeah.
to paint this picture of what led to the Arab Spring, how it unfolded, and what it means for us today.
Right. And how it still echoes today.
So let's start in Tunisia, often called the birthplace of the Arab Spring.
Oh,
We're going to hear from Dura Agrabi,
okay.
a university professor who witnessed the revolution unfold in her own city, Tunis. And her story is especially striking because it reveals this really stark contrast between her relatively comfortable upbringing
Yeah.
and the harsh realities faced by so many Tunisians outside the capital.
It really highlights those inequalities that were bubbling under the surface.
Right, exactly. So Dura paints this very vivid picture of her childhood growing up in a middle-class family in Tunis, where education was super important, like super prized.
Education was the key.
But you know that bubble kind of burst when she went to Manubi University.
Okay.
This university was known for its politically active leftist student body.
So a hotbed of potential dissent.
Yeah, and it was a real awakening for her. She encountered students from impoverished regions who shared stories of, just crushing poverty, police brutality, and this systematic oppression.
So she's seeing firsthand the experiences of people outside her own bubble.
Yeah, and it wasn't just stories.
Right.
Jor actually experienced the regime's repression firsthand.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine sitting in a classroom
Yeah.
and wondering if the person next to you is taking notes on your every word,
Like a government informant.
like a government informant?
Chilling.
That was the reality under President Ben Ali's regime,
Right.
which had been in power for over 2 decades.
A long time.
It was a system built on crony capitalism,
Yeah.
where, just a select few, just a handful of people, enrich themselves
Of course.
through political connections,
Hmm.
while the majority of people struggled to just make ends meet.
It's a tale as old as time almost.
Yeah, and so this system of control, this corruption, how did it finally crumble? What was that catalyst that ignited the revolution?
Well, it was the desperate act of a single man, Mohamed Bouazizi,
Right.
a street vendor who set himself on fire in December of 2010.
Wow.
And his self-immolation, this unbelievably desperate act,
Yeah.
became the symbol of frustration
Yeah.
and this just complete despair
Yeah.
that countless Tunisians felt.
Right.
It resonated so deeply.
And Dura actually describes this flurry of interpretations and narratives that emerged on social media after Bouazizi's act.
That's fascinating.
And it's remarkable how social media, it was still relatively new in the region at that time,
It was.
became this powerful tool for mobilizing people
Right.
and amplifying those calls for change.
Yeah.
Think about it. Just a decade earlier, something like this might have gone completely unnoticed,
Exactly.
brushed under the rug by state-controlled media.
Right. Censored.
But social media allowed people to connect,
Connect.
share information,
Yeah.
organize in a way that was never possible before.
It was a game changer.
It was a game changer. And for Dura, the revolution became very personal.
Okay.
She found herself torn, really torn,
Yeah.
between her own desire for change
Yeah.
and the fear and worry of her family,
Sure.
who urged caution.
Right. They want to protect her.
It's this dilemma that many people face, right?
Totally.
In revolutionary situations.
Yeah.
That pull between personal safety
Right.
and the pursuit of a better future.
Yeah. And not just for yourself, but for your family.
For everyone.
For your community.
For the whole community.
Yeah.
And so Dura talks about the student protests, the role of professors, artists in sparking action.
So the university becomes this hub.
It's incredible how even in the face of oppression,
Yeah.
art and education
Or education.
can become these powerful tools for resistance.
Absolutely. They give people a voice.
Yeah, they provide a language for expressing dissent,
Yeah.
for imagining a different future,
Right.
for galvanizing people around a shared cause.
It brings people together.
And as these protests gain momentum,
Yeah.
Dura describes this feeling that change was becoming inevitable.
Right.
Like the regime had lost its grip,
Lost its grip.
and the people's grievances could no longer be ignored,
It reached a tipping point.
a tipping point.
Yeah.
And on January 14th, 2011,
Okay.
after weeks of protests,
Weeks of protests.
that possibility became a reality.
It did.
President Ben Ali fled the country.
Wow.
And Dura remembers watching the news with her family.
Yeah.
This mix of disbelief and elation,
Right.
that overwhelming sense of liberation.
Yeah, it must have been incredible.
It's a moment etched in the memory of so many Tunisians,
Absolutely.
a moment that shattered the old order
Yeah.
and ushered in this new era
Yeah.
of uncertainty,
Uncertainty.
but also immense hope.
Of course. Yeah.
But it wasn't just a personal victory for Dura.
Right.
She felt this sense of pride, this feeling that Tunisia had sparked something much larger,
Wow.
something that could spread across the region.
Right.
And this idea of Tunisia as an exporter of revolution
Exporter of revolution.
is really significant because it reflects the ripple effect of these uprisings.
That's right.
How they inspired and emboldened people in neighboring countries
Yes.
to demand change as well.
Yeah, it's contagious, that energy.
And that ripple effect is exactly where we're headed next.
Yeah.
Get ready to be transported to the heart of Cairo,
Okay.
where a revolution is brewing in Tahrir Square.
Let's go.
So from the jubilant streets of Tunis, we now find ourselves in the heart of Cairo, Egypt.
Cairo.
Imagine a city buzzing with anticipation,
Yeah.
a revolution brewing in the iconic Tahrir Square.
Tahrir Square.
To guide us through this chapter,
Okay.
we have Lina Atala,
Okay.
a journalist who was not just a witness, but really an active participant
Wow.
in shaping the narrative of the Egyptian uprising.
That's incredible.
And Lina's story is particularly illuminating because she connects the events of 2011 to this broader historical context,
Okay.
particularly the political climate of the 1990s and early 2000s.
Right.
She describes the 90s as this time of induced sleep
Induced sleep.
under Hosni Mubarak's rule.
Yeah.
Think of it as a time when dissent was stifled,
Right.
where challenging the status quo was met with swift and often brutal repression.
Yeah, you didn't want to speak out.
It sounds almost Orwellian,
Yeah.
this idea of a nation lulled into a state of political apathy.
Right.
But how did Mubarak manage to maintain such tight control for so long?
Well, I mean, it was a combination of things.
Yeah.
Mubarak really cultivated a cult of personality,
Okay.
presenting himself as this indispensable patriarch of the nation.
The father figure.
Yeah, the father figure. He also benefited from the support of the United States,
Well-
which prioritized stability in the region
Well, it's
over
mission, yeah.
democratic reforms. And let's not forget the pervasive presence of the security services who were quick to silence any voices of dissent.
They were everywhere.
Yeah, they were everywhere.
So how did the seeds of revolution begin to sprout in such an environment? What were the cracks in Mubarak's facade?
Well, interestingly enough, one of those cracks emerged in the early 2000s with the rise of online activism.
Violent activism.
Blogs became this space for open discussion
Right.
and criticism,
Yeah,
which was unheard of in traditional media outlets,
of course.
which were very tightly controlled by the state.
It's amazing how the internet can
Yeah.
empower people to bypass those traditional gatekeepers
Totally.
and create their own platforms
Yeah.
for free expression.
Freedom of speech.
It was a game changer.
It was,
But it also came with risks.
of course.
Mubarak's regime wasn't about to let this new form of dissent go unchecked.
Right.
They began targeting bloggers,
Okay.
arresting them, imprisoning them,
Yeah.
using their cases as this warning to others who might dare to challenge the status quo.
Making examples of them.
It's a stark reminder that freedom of speech, even in the digital age,
Yeah,
is often a fragile thing,
it is.
especially when powerful forces feel threatened.
Absolutely.
And this crackdown on online dissent also highlights this complex relationship between the United States and Egypt,
Right.
the U.S., while promoting democracy on the world stage,
Yeah.
often turned a blind eye
Right.
to the repressive tactics of regimes like Mubarak's.
Yeah.
as long as those regimes aligned with American interests in the region.
It's realpolitik.
It's a troubling reminder of that realpolitik that often shapes foreign policy.
Yeah.
But back to Egypt.
Yeah.
Did this crackdown on bloggers have a chilling effect on this burgeoning online activism?
Well, to some extent, yes, but it also fueled the sense of anger
Anger.
and resentment, particularly among young people
Right.
who saw the internet as their space
Their space.
for free expression.
Right.
And then came Obama's historic speech in Cairo in 2009,
Right.
where he called for a new beginning
A new beginning.
between the United States and the Muslim world.
I remember that speech.
Yeah.
It generated a lot of excitement and hope, not just in Egypt, but throughout the region.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did it have a tangible impact on the ground in Egypt?
Initially, there was this sense of optimism,
Optimism.
a feeling that maybe things were finally changing,
Right.
but that hope really quickly faded
Yeah.
as the reality on the ground remained unchanged.
Right.
Mubarak continued his repressive tactics,
Yeah.
and the U.S. continued to support him.
So this disconnect
Yeah,
between words and actions,
right.
between the promise of change and the persistence of the status quo,
Absolutely.
fueled the growing discontent.
It did.
And that discontent finally erupted in 2011,
2011,
with Tahrir Square becoming the epicenter of the revolution.
the epicenter.
And Lena describes the square as a place that held deep significance in her life, both before and during the uprising.
It's powerful, yeah.
For Lena, Tahrir Square was more than just a geographical location.
Right.
It was a symbol
Symbol.
of the Egyptian people's collective yearning
Yearning.
for freedom and dignity.
Absolutely.
It was a space where Egyptians from all walks of life came together
Yeah.
to demand a better future.
To demand a better future.
And Lena's account of the revolution is so fascinating because she describes it as an embodied experience.
Embodied.
What does she mean by that?
She's talking about the visceral, emotional nature of the uprising.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about political slogans
Yeah.
or intellectual debates. It was about people reclaiming their agency,
Reclaiming their agency.
expressing themselves freely, connecting with others
Through
through shared emotions and aspirations.
Yeah.
It's powerful stuff.
It sounds like a truly transformative experience, almost like a collective awakening. What was it like to actually be in Tahrir Square during those heady days?
Well, Lena, she paints this very vivid picture of the euphoria,
Euphoria.
the sense of liberation,
Liberated.
this feeling that anything was possible.
Yeah.
But there was also, this undercurrent of anxiety,
Right.
this recognition that the road ahead
Yeah.
would be long and difficult.
And indeed it was.
It was.
The downfall of Mubarak, while a momentous event,
Yeah.
didn't automatically translate into this smooth transition to democracy.
Of course not.
There were power struggles, political maneuvering,
Yeah.
and concerns about the role of groups like the Muslim Brotherhood,
Right.
which had long been a powerful force in Egyptian society.
Absolutely.
The Muslim Brotherhood's rise to power after the revolution and their subsequent removal by the military in 2013
Right.
is a crucial part of understanding Egypt's trajectory.
It is.
It highlights the fragility of democratic transitions
Yeah.
and the challenges of building new institutions and norms after decades of authoritarian rule.
It's not easy.
So where did that leave Egypt?
Right.
Did the revolution ultimately fail?
That's a very complex question.
Yeah.
It's important to remember that revolutions are rarely neat and tidy affairs.
Right.
They're messy, they're unpredictable,
Yeah.
with both triumphs and setbacks.
Yeah.
While Egypt's transition to democracy has been far from smooth,
Right.
the events of 2011 undeniably shook the foundations of the old order.
They did.
Things could never go back to exactly the way they were.
And what about Lena? Where does her story leave us?
Well, her story ends on a note of caution.
Okay.
She expresses concern that Egypt, under the leadership of Abdel Fattah el-Sisi,
Right.
is slipping back into the same repressive
And
pattern
the same pattern.
of the Mubarak era.
A sobering thought indeed.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if the sacrifices made during the Arab Spring were ultimately in vain.
Right, yeah.
But perhaps there's a different way to frame this question.
Right.
Instead of asking if the revolution failed,
Yeah.
maybe we should be asking what its legacy will be,
Its legacy.
how it has shaped the political landscape,
Yeah.
and what lessons can be learned
What lesson
from both its triumphs and its setbacks.
Yeah, I think that's a much more productive way to look at it.
I think so too.
Revolutions are rarely about achieving, immediate an absolute change.
Right.
They're about planting seeds,
Planting seeds.
shifting the balance of power,
Yeah.
opening up new possibilities.
Yeah.
And those possibilities continue to unfold even in the face of setbacks and disappointments.
So from the hope and euphoria of Tahrir Square,
Yeah.
we now turn to a country
Okay.
where the Arab Spring took a much darker and more tragic turn.
Very tragic.
Syria. From those hopeful beginnings in Tunisia and the electrifying energy of Tahrir Square, we now journey to a country where the Arab Spring took a truly heartbreaking turn. Syria. A place, synonymous with ancient history, but for many, the name now evokes images of a brutal civil war, a humanitarian crisis that's touched us all. But what led to this shattering of a nation? To understand that, we need to dive deep into the story of Kholoud Helb, a Syrian activist whose personal journey mirrors his country's descent into chaos.
It really is a story that just shows how deeply ingrained the Assad family's role was in Syrian society. Like, he describes growing up in a Syria where challenging Hafez al-Assad, the father of Bashar, was like challenging the very air you breathed.
It's hard to even fathom living under that kind of oppressive weight. Did Kholoud, growing up, even realize the extent of the control the regime had over people's lives?
It's interesting because for much of his youth, Kholoud seemed oblivious to the darker undercurrents of Syrian society. He had a relatively comfortable upbringing, and his family, like many others, avoided talking about politics.
It sounds like a survival mechanism, a way of coping with the fear and uncertainty of living under such an authoritarian regime.
Exactly. It was almost as if there was this unspoken agreement to keep your head down, not make waves, and just get on with life. But everything changed for Kholoud in 2005 at his father's funeral.
That seems like an incredibly unlikely place for a political awakening. What happened?
It's almost like a scene from a spy thriller. At the funeral, friends and comrades of Kholoud's father started sharing stories, whispering about his hidden life as a dissident.
Wow.
They spoke of his activism against the regime, his imprisonment, his unwavering belief in a democratic future for Syria. It was a side of his father that Kholoud never knew existed.
It must have felt like the ground was shifting beneath his feet, discovering this secret history, this legacy of courage and resistance within his own family.
It was a profound turning point. Kholoud felt compelled to uncover the truth about his father's past, and in doing so, he stumbled upon this network of dissent that had been operating in the shadows for decades. This wasn't just a handful of people, it was an organized, clandestine movement working tirelessly to chip away at the Assad regime's grip on power.
It makes you realize that even in the most repressive environments, the human spirit's desire for freedom, it can't be extinguished. But operating in secret must have been incredibly dangerous. What were the risks involved?
The risks were enormous. We have to remember the brutal crackdown on dissent that Hafez al-Assad orchestrated throughout his reign. The most notorious example is the Hama massacre in 1982,
Right.
where the regime ruthlessly crushed an uprising, killing tens of thousands of people. It was a message loud and clear that any challenge to Assad's authority would be met with overwhelming force.
A horrifying reminder of the price of dissent in a totalitarian state.
Right.
So when Bashar al-Assad inherited power from his father in 2000, did this climate of fear and repression persist?
Sadly, yes. While there was a brief period of, cautious optimism, with some hoping that Bashar, who had lived in the West, might usher in some reforms, those hopes were quickly dashed.
Yeah.
Bashar proved to be a chip off the old block, maintaining the same repressive apparatus and silencing any voices that dared to challenge his rule.
So what was the breaking point for Syrians? What finally pushed them to take to the streets in 2011?
It was a confluence of factors, much like in Tunisia and Egypt. There was a growing sense of frustration with the regime's corruption and economic mismanagement. The country was also experiencing a severe drought, leading to food shortages and skyrocketing prices. And of course, those inspiring images of successful uprisings in neighboring countries gave Syrians a glimmer of hope that change was possible.
But in Syria, unlike Tunisia or Egypt, the spark of revolution didn't come from a street vendor or a mass gathering in a public square. It came from a group of school children. Can you tell us about the children of Dara?
Their story is both inspiring and heartbreaking. These brave kids, emboldened by the revolutionary fervor sweeping the region, they decided to express their own yearning for freedom by spray painting anti-regime slogans on their school walls.
It's hard to imagine a more innocent act of defiance. What was the regime's response?
Their response was swift and brutal. The children were arrested, detained, and tortured. Their parents' pleas for their release were ignored. And this callous act of cruelty directed at children, it ignited a wave of protests that quickly spread throughout the country.
It's a chilling reminder that even the most vulnerable members of society are not immune to the brutality of a repressive regime.
Mm.
And Khulud, inspired by the courage of these children and the legacy of his own father, found himself drawn into the heart of the uprising.
Absolutely. He became actively involved in supporting the protests, using his resources to provide essential supplies like flour to those who were, taking to the streets. But his activism came at a steep price.
What happened?
He was arrested, detained, and tortured by the regime's security forces. And imagine the utter betrayal he must have felt when he discovered that his own uncle, gripped by fear, had informed on him to the authorities.
It's a tragic illustration of how fear can poison even the closest of relationships.
Yeah.
How did Khulud manage to escape this nightmare?
Eventually, with the help of his remaining family and friends, he managed to flee to Lebanon, leaving behind everything he knew and loved. He describes the feeling of being flagless and countryless, mourning the Syria that could have been.
The profound sense of loss and displacement that's shared by millions of Syrians who've been forced to flee their homeland. So, as we conclude our journey through these three countries, what enduring lessons can we draw from these echoes of the Arab Spring? What insights can guide us as we grapple with the complexities of political change and the enduring struggle for freedom and dignity in our own time?
Well, I think these stories remind us that revolutions are rarely straightforward, predictable events. They're messy, they're complex, and often fraught with both triumphs and setbacks. We see this in the fragile progress towards democracy in Tunisia, the ongoing struggle for political reform in Egypt, and the tragic descent into civil war in Syria.
And what about the human dimension of these events? What can we learn from the personal journeys of Dura, Lina, and Khulud?
Their stories underscore the resilience of the human spirit in the face of oppression, the courage it takes to stand up for what you believe in, even at great personal risk. They also remind us that the yearning for freedom and dignity is a universal human aspiration, one that transcends borders and cultures.
And a powerful message of hope, even amidst the darkness and tragedy that we've explored in this deep dive. The Arab Spring, in all its complexity and contradictions, serves as a reminder that the pursuit of a more just and equitable world is an ongoing struggle, one that requires our continued attention, empathy, and action. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.
Absolutely.